So why don't we start with just some brief introductions, and then I'd love to hear how each of you got interested by the space that you're in. So Valeria, why don't you talk about yourself first? Where did you start out your career, and what led you into a personal brand?
So, like all of us, we all started off for different reasons. I stumbled into the modeling space by mistake. So 10 years ago, I just started off modeling. A friend photographer shot some shots of me, and obviously not supposed to be a model because I'm only 5'2". I'm really tiny. And so I quickly got into the fitness space because I started to see that there was a lot more money to be made there. So when I got into the fitness space, there was a lot of brands reaching out to me, like Gymshark, Quantum Nutrition, and all these companies were having, they were paying us X amount of dollars. So I got curious about how much money the companies were making. So while I had contracts, I was developing my brands. I developed my first business, which was Orsini Talent. I had a talent agency. Then after that, I had Body by Orsini. That was gels and supplements. And then I had Superfit Babes. It was a textile. We would import and export from Colombia, Brazil, and then we started manufacturing here in the US in Boca. But
so how did I get interested? Yeah, how did that happen? Before you got all those, how did you just how do you go from modeling to talent agency?
I always enjoyed business. I enjoy when you put hard work into something, you get something out of it. I enjoyed creating something and taking something, maybe an idea that I had in my mind, and to see it manifested. And a lot of the times, why I really wanted to design my workout apparel, or your real question, is I was working out with one of my girlfriends. I was already marketing all these brands. We were wearing workout clothes every day. I was like, why don't we start making our own clothes? And honestly, I ran into a lot of issues as a woman in the manufacturing space, as far as body fits and things like that. So I wanted to start creating my dream outfits, and so I started creating that. And quickly I realized that you have to create stuff for everyone, that you can't be so personal in creating your products. But that's how I got interested in it, and I fell in love with it.
Great. So a lot of ideas come from personal needs. So it's a great way to hear a story of what you want, and you build something, and you see a need for it, then you turn it into a business. Danielle, so tell us how a litigator, how a lawyer gets interested in the fashion space and the influencer space. Like, what did you see? Where did you see the opportunity? Where did you get the interest from?
I mean, well, I'm Danielle Garno, and I'm a shareholder at Greenberg Traurig, Miami-based. I actually started off in our Los Angeles office, and when I was in LA, I did a lot of anti-counterfeiting work for large multinational brands. And then I moved to Miami, and we weren't doing any of that work, but Miami was really up and coming in the fashion space with Basel, and we had some really great brands, some great designers. And I was looking around and saying, well, who's representing them? Who's looking out for their interests? And I kind of took it more as, instead of just doing, intellectual property or influencer marketing or corporate structure or just general litigation, to address and help these brands and designers in a more holistic approach. So kind of a one-stop shop for all of those needs, and really focusing on not only protecting the brands and the designers, but helping them grow through various channels and various connections.
Great. So let's get right into what as you started to see the power of social media, or the need for social media to get the voice of your brand out. What were some of the initial hurdles that you came across, or challenges?
So in personal branding, I think some of the hurdles that I experienced, kind of knowing the right direction and which way to go, and just, because you want to be perfect, you want to present yourself to the public, and you want them to like you, but you definitely want to be authentic and true to yourself, no matter where you are. If you're at the very beginning or you're a bunch of followers in, the authenticity, I think that you can't overestimate or underestimate your audience and the people that are watching you. I'm sorry?
Just challenges as you started to build your platform.
So the thing is, one of the challenges, what ultimately helps propel you forward at the beginning, is sometimes can limit you towards the end. So for myself, for example, when I first started modeling, I would dress very sexy, and I had a bikini bikini swimwear most of the time. That does not help you when you cross over into the business world. So you definitely want to see long term and not just see short term. So I think that some of the advice that I would even give to a younger version of myself is stay true to myself, don't sell out for numbers, and just do you. Like, don't worry about everybody else. Keep your eyes on your own plane.
On the same note, Danielle, when you started to go from conglomerates to smaller size brands, what were some of the initial mistakes that you saw they were making that could easily be avoided for future problems?
All of them. It really is, look, especially when you're dealing with designers and brands, people who are creative, their sweet spot is creativity, right? They're not thinking necessarily about the business or about legal issues and legal pitfalls. And so I saw these things happening over and over and over again. And so, for example, you can't just take a picture off the internet and use it to sell your product. There's a copyright violation there. So those are hard lessons to learn when you're just starting out as a brand, because you don't want to spend your capital, the hard-earned money, God forbid, your investors find out that you're doing this. You don't want to spend it on legal spend. You want to spend it on, inventory and marketing and PR. So I kind of like to get in there early, kind of do a little bit of a risk assessment to see how you're running your business, where those pitfalls are, and how we can avoid that.
I wish that I would have had her when I first started off, because what you were saying, I was talking about more about personal issues, but when it comes to the business aspect of it, one of my first business partners was a lawyer. I had many different business partners, and at the beginning, everybody's really nice when there's nothing on paper and when they're all excited to work with each other. And then you guys start making money together and you have all these assets or situations arise, and then the paperwork wasn't done properly, or you were really nice at the beginning, and then now when there's money involved, it can get really nasty. So sometimes people tell you really great things, make sure that they put it in paper, and then you have a lawyer like this because you think you know, but there's a specialist in each department for a reason. They really study this. And even in my own partnerships, I lost a lot of money from people that I thought were good people. They come from good families. We have similar morals, and they stole a lot of money from me. So cover your butt.
I'm taking you with me everywhere now. That was great.
So let's talk about, what was your first aha moment of really recognizing that your business and your brand was being followed at the 100,000, 500,000, 1 million? At what point did you see that what was it that you were doing that was right? Authenticity, yes, but beyond that.
It's weird because so I came from the modeling world, and in the modeling world they teach you to be almost generic, because you're supposed to be a hanger, you're supposed to just wear the brands, so they basically teach you to be that way.
What was your aha moment of when you hit 1 million?
There was never an aha moment because my mentality is very humble. So the thing is that when a lot of people start to recognize you or they want to take photos with you, it was almost kind of like, really? Like I was grateful for it, but I think that that's kind of what's helped me throughout my career, helps me to continue to grow, is because I don't think I know everything. I'm not afraid to ask or to ask for help, and also to be humble about it. Obviously you see the momentum, you see yourself growing, and to me, the way that I thought at the beginning was like, I wasn't offensive to anybody. I was kind of universally in some way attractive, and at the same time, I wasn't offensive to anyone. So I wouldn't pick teams, I wouldn't put things that were controversial, because in the modeling industry, they teach you to just kind of be bland in a way. And then coming into the fitness world, and with the explosion of social media, all of a sudden your personality is like glorified, and people actually want to know who you are, and developing a personal brand. So then this person that I always was, I was really good at hiding it. So then changing my mindset of you are in the public eye now, you need to, if you're gonna have a voice, what are you saying? And at the same time, like, why do you have a voice? Why do you want a voice? So honestly, some of the things that I enjoy the most is like when I have one-on-ones or when I'm able to talk to a group of people and kind of share some of my things and also give back in a way that you're not expecting something back monetarily either.
Absolutely.
But there was no aha moment. I'm still waiting for it because to me, I haven't made it. I feel like there's a lot more to go.
Oh my God, she's got 4.5 million followers. Like my, 1,500.
There's more. There's more.
So, Danielle, let's talk about, let's say we're talking to designers, creatives, individuals wanting to launch their brands. What are 2 or 3 of the most important things to evaluate as you start to put yourself out there?
That's a really good question. From a legal perspective, one, intellectual property. Unfortunately in fashion, a sweater is just a sweater. It doesn't matter if it's made by Gucci or Target. It's a garment. It's meant to keep you warm, so you can't really get intellectual property rights in garments. There are exceptions. I'm not going to go into them. But you should consult with somebody who can advise you as to whether or not you can get intellectual property rights in a design or an accessory or whatever.
And is that relatively affordable for like a startup to do?
Yeah, it is really, well, let's even back up. As soon as you have your brand name, you want to be able to make sure that you can register that as a trademark. That is really, I think, the most important thing. Have a lawyer do it. I know LegalZoom is like great, but again, if you don't do a proper search to see if somebody's using the name in some random city in Oklahoma, you might have a problem later on. So highly invest in that, and that's really not expensive at all. There's a lot of people that'll do that for reasonable.
And that's one that me and my friends have made that mistake. I've definitely fallen in love with the name of a business. I have a whole concept of vision, and then I go and look at the trademarks and it's taken, and it's not like a little taken, it's like really taken because they make so many different variations of it. So that is like one of the first things.
That other thing is, your business structure, how you want to structure it, employees, how, make sure wherever you are, especially if you're operating in California, that you understand the employment laws in California because that state is
So let's think along the line of social media brands, like the area that you guys are experts in. So let's say I've got my company, I got my brand, I got my trademark, and guys, this is not small things. These are 101. You have to get your name trademark. Going on Google and saying, can I get the .com or something close to the .com, that's not trademark. So that we're not minimizing that, but what I really want to get to is I have all of that. Now I've got my product, or I've got a brand that's given me product, and I'm taking pictures, and I've got crazy amounts of followers starting to follow me. At this point, what are some of the biggest mistakes that I want to avoid?
One of the biggest mistakes that I would think that someone that all of a sudden they start experiencing success is sometimes people want to slow down. So sometimes you have success and you have all this momentum, or maybe even in a way that you made a bunch of money, and then they have the retirement mentality, and there's another mentality that it's just continuing. So if you have momentum and you're doing well, I would not take a back seat and start kind of chilling out and feeling like I made it. I would continue putting quality content out there, and maybe now that you have a better idea of what your customers or your clients like or are enjoying, you can make that better. So a lot of the times when I'm talking to business owners, I ask them what's working for them, and whatever's working for them, out of everything that they're doing, let's double up or triple on this. So if you see that your followers are really engaging with a certain type of content, do that, give them what they want, and at the same time continue to provide value. Because even if you got me to follow you because you do really good makeup or something like that, and then 5 months later, I haven't seen good makeup from you in forever, so I might unfollow you. You need to continue and keep the people engaged and keep them wanting to be there, so you continue to provide value through your services, which is why they followed you in the first place. So don't get too fancy. Don't, all of a sudden you're a singer tomorrow, but do what you want to do. It's your platform. But stay true to those people, because like I tell others as well, as followers or as your friends or people, family, they're stuck with you. But like these followers, they're choosing to follow you, and be good to them, provide them with good content. It's not just for you to take. You want to give, and then it just keeps going.
So on that note, what's the extreme version of that?
Well, I mean, I think that's really great advice. Just stay true to your brand, stay true to your followers, stay true to who you are, and that will continue to build. The extreme version of that is that you attract a lot of attention, right? I mean, you start attracting get haters, you get your competitors start to hate you, and they'll try anyway to bring you down, whether it's on social media, whether it's legally. So also what I've seen are these really buzzy brands, right? So all of a sudden they've got something on a celebrity, and the next thing you know, their sales are up like $1 gazillion, and then they become a target for plaintiffs' lawyers. And so once you hit that kind of threshold, your visibility is high, and people think you've got more money than you do, and you become a target.
On that same note, there are large corporations that just have a standard operating procedure of being bullies on anyone out there that comes remotely close to becoming competitive. And just, standard operating procedure for them is just file a lawsuit, cease and desist. You look too close to what I'm doing. How does one deal with something like that?
Well, it's definitely more of a question for her, but for cease and desist, if I'm not doing anything wrong and I'm not copying somebody's style, I don't care. Like a lot of the times people even write me letters like, if you don't do this, I'm gonna have my lawyer contact me. Okay, go for it. Because a lot of the times in the industry, they say things like, contracts are made to be broken. I know that you might feel a certain way about that, but a lot of the times in the entertainment industry, in the fashion industry, people bluff a lot, cease and desist, just to try to get you to stop. And a lot of the times they don't even have the grounds to even be sending that, or it's their friend that went to law school, hasn't finished law school, and sending you that letter. So unless I'm doing something wrong, I wouldn't be worried. But I need a lawyer to tell me that.
I was gonna say, I'm sure you have a different opinion on that.
Yeah, I mean, look, she's not wrong. I see that all the time. But when somebody sends me, oh my God, I got a cease and desist letter, I can look at it and just be like, okay, you don't need to worry about it, or okay, we need to worry about this right now. And I have a client who got a cease and desist from Beyonce's lawyer. It was great. She called me and she was like, I just got this letter. Oh my God, Beyonce knows who I am. This is amazing. And I'm like, no, this isn't amazing. We gotta, take this off the shelf, and then, and you can go through all this thing. At the end of it, she's like, well, can I send her a basket of my product with lemons? I'm like, absolutely not. There are times when you can look at it and say, okay, that's BS, or there's times where you're like, oh no, we're gonna have to address this and fix it, and never ever do this again. So
I think that a lot of the times with the cease and desist, the companies don't want to go through litigation, and they don't want to go and spend money on you. They're really just trying to scare you. So it's a warning. It's like, stop it. And then I got a cease and desist from DC Comics, because for Superfit Babes, at one point we had some designs from Colombia that were too similar to some of their designs, like for their hero outfits. So we got a cease and desist. And also my friend got a cease and desist the other day from Kim Kardashian. So it is scary, but most of the time, just do the right thing and take it down.
So, all right, let's talk about I'm at a measly 4 million followers, and I want to get to 10. What are we, how did you get from 1 million to 2? How did you get from 2 to 3? And this is not the time to be humble. Tell us.
So everything's changed. So at the very beginning, and the strategy continues to change the same way how everything is just changing. We're all just trying to catch up, and we're all trying to figure it out. We're all in this new era together. We've never done it before. And so when I was at 1 million to 4 million, a lot of it was like a snowball effect. So because you have this momentum and you have all these people knowing who you are, they're engaging with your content, they're sharing it, there's a moment that's there that you have to capitalize on. So creating the content consistently, I did that for years. I did good morning, good night, good afternoon, how are you? I did all kinds of posts, and I did it consistently. So I remember I would take pictures. I would spend one day and I would take a bunch of photos of myself, and then that would be my content for the week. So that was the service that I was providing at the time, because I was providing modeling content. I was a model, and then it switched over to fitness, into fitness tips, workouts, diets. So I always provided a service, but then there's always been a point where it's kind of like, okay, that's cool. What else do you do? So then with your life or with your personality and all that stuff, as you continue to pivot and to grow, I always want to be true to myself, so all of my businesses kind of go hand in hand. But back to growing rapidly, at this point, it's hard because the algorithm has changed completely. So at one point it was 20% of your Instagram followers were able to see your content, and now it's at about 7% that is seeing your content. So if you're only having 7% engage with your content, you definitely want to make sure that your content is great. You don't want to have fake followers, because then if you're having fake followers and into that 7%, then even less than 7% is even seeing your stuff. But Instagram does it on purpose, because at one point the influencers were making like ridiculous, outrageous amounts of money, and Instagram, Facebook, these are all free platforms. So they don't make money off of the platform, they make money off of ads. So if the influencers are taking all of it, or all of us are taking all their money, that doesn't really work for them. So they created the algorithm and all this stuff. So I was able to grow a lot at the beginning because I was kind of ahead. And that, I would tell you guys as a tip, you want to be on to the next thing. And the only way you can be on to the next thing is if you're investing like maybe the 80% of your investment is into Instagram and Facebook, and then you're taking this 20% and you're investing maybe 5 into a new app, or into LinkedIn, into this, into that, so that way when the next thing is popping off, you're already there, you're already with it, and you already kind of have a little bit of a head start. But you want to be wise and vigilant and just always kind of looking to the future and seeing what's hot, what's socially relevant. If sometimes I've even done that myself. Like I'll post things and it's like a holiday, and I'm trying to get people to be interested as far as like what I'm interested in. Be aware as far as what people are interested in, what they want to see, and give it to them. And I think you will gain followers. People want to be entertained. They want to be taught. Videos are very huge going into this next year into Instagram, and I would tell you guys to use the lives and to use the Instagram, the new channel, the TV. It has like 95% viewing. So like if you put an Instagram little TV thing now, you will get so many more of your followers will see you, opposed to that 7%. Use stories, use swipe ups, use all the tools that they give you, and get on all the platforms because they are all free, so you have nothing to lose.
This is invaluable advice. Thank you so much. It really is, and I think the one major takeaway is about the first to market and the new tools that are becoming available. You can't look at how brands were built or how followers were accumulated even a year ago or 2 years ago.
It continues to change, and there's courses and things online that you can look at to stay up to date. There's women. I was just speaking to a woman that she takes a class every year, and there's a lot. I'm pretty sure that if we raise our hands, the majority of us are not doing that.
So walk us through everything that we just discussed.
How to do it legally?
Yeah, it's like, but before we get into that, I'd like to know the challenge of there are so many, the minute people start seeing that you're growing, you have a slew of companies trying to reach out to you to say, let me get you to 500,000. Let me add 100,000 followers for you. So there's the issue of percentage of engagement to followers and the reality of those followers.
Yeah, I mean, I think, yeah, that's really, because look, if you're a brand, influencer marketing works, it just does. I mean, so, it works. So a dream for a small brand is to get something on a Kardashian or a Hadid sister, and, you're now through the roof, right? Not everybody can afford to do that, so then you have to kind of figure out where those people are and whether or not it's really adding value. Like, what's your ROI on spending that money using an influencer? And you have to make sure that it's really the one who's going to connect with your target market, your target audience, right? Your consumers. And if you can't hit that, then it's worth you just threw away money. So a lot of what you're seeing now are like micro-influencers that have a smaller following. They generally don't, charge as much, and they have a much higher actual engagement with your customers. So, they could be, I know that people use their own customers to market their their apparel, their goods, their accessories, whatever. That's generally like kind of how I would recommend it. But look, you could get on a Kardashian, good for you.
But she's right. You're right. What's converting the most now are niche influencers. So, for example, if there's an influencer that has 10 million people following her, and she does fitness, she does beauty, she does all these different things, it's really hard to pinpoint her demographic. Opposed to this fisherman that's a great fisherman, and I have a fisherman brand. So that's what I'm going to market to. It's great that she has 10 million followers, but if none of that converts, I'm just going to spend a lot of money when I could have maybe just given free product or a very little bit amount of money.
To that point, and I think anybody who has Instagram has seen influencers who, one day are doing teeth whitening, and then the next day is doing like a bourbon brand, and then, some clothing line. What we originally started talking about was authenticity, and, you see that and you're like, that doesn't look authentic to me. They're doing whatever brand, whoever gives them money, they're just, and look, I don't blame you, like, make your money, do it, it's a short-lived, go for it, which I definitely miss this whole thing, but but be careful. If you're a brand, then maybe not choose one of those if that doesn't really go with what you're trying to market.
No, and even for the influencer that's doing that, that's maybe just over branding, because even for myself, what happens is that people try to reach a certain number, and once they start gaining this momentum or all this coverage on themselves, then all the brands start reaching out to you. So then this brand wants to give you this and that and that, and so of course they want to take all the money, but then their page becomes just ads, and then the people that signed up or that subscribed to you to hear you in the first place, then they're bombarded with ads and with all this stuff that they didn't sign up for, so they're unattracted and they can become unfollows. So there has to be a balance, and the brands have to go with what you're doing. Like, I can't promote something that has alcohol, or something that has to do with something that could be harmful to anyone, because all of my branding is health and beauty, fitness related only. So, and even for brands.
On that very note, finding the balance between, and it becomes harder because when you're being authentic, you're being yourself and you're building your brand. But now that you've built it and you have a large following and you have attracted other brands that now want to pay you, and that's the revenue one was looking for. How do you maintain the authenticity yet not look like an advertising feed?
It's difficult. I think that you have to continue to assess and reassess it. I think you just have to continue to reassess it, because you have to look at your page, because obviously you're building this page to gain money. Whether it's, because some influencers get into it just to promote other people's brands, and that's what they're really good at, marketing, and they enjoy marketing other people's brands. And then there's business owners. So, and then there's people that are creating their own brands off of that. So,
Right. Can we get a legal 101 on, you give this lecture on like what's allowed, and you have how you have to announce everything that is that you're being paid for. Just like, do that.
Do that? Okay. So the FTC governs advertising, and that includes social media. And so what they've said is that if there is some sort of material connection between the brand and the influencer, that has to be disclosed. And when I talk about material connection, that could be cash, that could be a free trip, that could be just free stuff. So, I get a lot, well, I just give, so-and-so free stuff, they don't need to say anything. And well, the law actually says that you do, so you have to disclose that on whatever social media platform that you're using. And that could be as simple as hashtag ad, which we've all seen a million times, but it doesn't have to be. So it can be, thank you for their free gift, so-and-so sent me this and, asked me to try it and I love it and blah, 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 blah. So what's important is that there is in fact, disclosure, because if it looks like a duck and quacks like a duck, it's an ad, right? So, I mean, that's...
And how aggressively is this being regulated or watched?
It's definitely being watched, right? So the FTC is a government agency, and we all know how active and, on it they are. Totally being sarcastic, but there are other consumer watchdog groups like truthandadvertising.org. There are self-regulating advertising agencies that will watch. Truthandadvertising.org hates the Kardashians. They are constantly going after them for failure for making those disclosures. The FTC has said they're not actively monitoring influencers, but if something comes to their attention, then they may or may not take action. And what we've seen to date is, yes, there have been some brands that have received, have been on the receiving end of an enforcement action. There have been a couple of influencers who have as well, but for the most part, they're really going after the advertisers, the PR companies. But what I like to tell my clients is that everybody's got skin in the game, right? So you can't just pass it off and say, well, they're doing it and I don't know what they're doing. You have to take responsibility for what people are saying on behalf of your product.
that's interesting because I also have had clients that tell you not to tag, or there's also big companies that tell you not to tag because they want it to come off, organic. So, and yeah, it's just the law. It's true.
Yeah, I mean, everybody's trying to get around it. I spoke at a conference in New York in front of like major brands, and I remember there was a creative director from a big not named brand, and they're like, well, we don't use it because hashtag ad just isn't sexy. And I'm like, neither is an enforcement action by the FTC. Like, you guys, you gotta do it, right? So, I mean,
but there are, like you mentioned, because hashtag ads is not sexy, and we don't want to use it. So, gift buy.
And also Facebook and Instagram, they flag these things. So it works against us because they want all the money to go through them, so that way they get a piece of the pie.
Piece of the advertising.
Absolutely.
Oh, and those Facebook, Instagram, those, the sponsored ads that you see at the top, the paid partnership with blah, 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 blah. The FTC has actually said that those don't suffice. So even if you use it, you still have to make the disclosure in the bottom of the thing. And on Instagram, to make it even harder, they say that it has to be before the more button. So there's only 2 lines of text before the more button. So you gotta either come out with it.
It's gotta be like the first hashtag.
It's gotta be the first, like first thing that you say. Otherwise, so.
I'd love to, we can continue talking, but maybe we'll open it up for some questions. I think let's keep the questions relevant to social media, building your brand on social media and the legal aspects of it. So let's start with, can we get a mic out here, please? Thank you. Thanks, Jason. Are you getting it out there, or
I'm loud.
just go ahead? Go. Use mine.
I guess this question is more for Danielle, but I've heard about trademarking your brand, different pieces of advice. I've heard trademark immediately as soon as you start, and I've also heard trademark once your brand has value and it's no longer a startup. So what would you recommend, and how much do you estimate a startup that really has no value associated with it should be paying for that trademark?
So, the USPTO, which is the United States Patent and Trademark Office, it sets like fees for filing a registration. Usually when you're creating a brand, there's so much more that goes behind it. So, getting the domain name, coming up with a marketing strategy. So, if you were dead set on that name, and I recommend getting it cleared first before you start spending money on, any kind of collateral materials, anything like that. The U.S. law basically says anybody that's first in use using that mark has trademark rights. So yeah, you can continue with your brand and then do it later on. That's fine. But again, that later on, you've already spent X amount of dollars, and you may have a problem because you wouldn't know that somebody has been using that name before you.
Great. The gentleman right behind you, can you?
Hi, yeah, I'm trying to build a fitness clothing brand, and I've researched a lot about social media marketing. I can say that maybe organic marketing is 20% of social media marketing. All the 80% goes to artificial sponsored posts or influencer marketing now. Making your brand true and everything. And influencer marketing is very complex because of how you go to the niche, influencers and everything. But coming from a startup, you have almost nothing to offer to an influencer when you start. I was on my head, I don't know much about everything, and I was planning to go to people that is true to, let's say, fitness. They demonstrate they like fitness, they don't do it for money. What can you offer when you're starting to discuss your influencer marketing strategy?
Thank you.
Sorry.
What's your product?
Basically t-shirts and shorts.
It's
and
clothing. Okay. So when you're a startup and you don't have a lot of money to spend in marketing or to spend, period, you definitely want to trade, you want to barter, so you want to trade services. So even if it's with another business owner or something like that, if you're looking for influencers, you want to offer them product. So the thing is, if they like your product, they want it. So if I'm looking at a boutique and they reach out to me and they say, you can have whatever you want, I'm a startup, I would love to work with you, tell me what you like and send me your shipping address. I'm gonna go and check them out, and if I like something and if I want something, then I might consider it, because the way that the influencers work, they weigh it out in their minds if it's worth it, if the value is there for them. So that could be in form of a gym membership. Some girls do post for free eyelashes and things like that, when that actually costs less than $200 and they make $1,500 and up a post, but they're valuing your value as something that they should exchange for a post. So maybe a girl will do it for a spray tan, or will do it for a lot of girls, and guys are doing it for workouts, for workout outfits, for apparels. So most of the small brands, they gift. But the thing is, when you gift, sometimes you lose, because you don't know if they're gonna post and all that stuff. So make sure that they actually want it. So it's not like, hey, let me send you a shirt, I'll give you this shirt, I'll give you this shirt. They'll finally be like, okay, I'll take the shirt. But they're not gonna wear it and post it. So you want somebody that say, hey, I would love to collaborate with you. Let me know if you guys if you're interested in something that I have. So then they're gonna go and browse and basically go shopping. They're investing time into your business, and they're seeing what they like, and then they'll pick out a few things and they'll send it to you. And then if you send it to them, you follow up, hey, did you like it? You build some form of a relationship with them, and you can maybe continue sending them little things here and there that like you. Their girls start seeing that they're wearing it, or their friends, their community they have influence over. And also, I would tell you, get it on your friends, like your attractive friends. Shoot them, have them wear it everywhere, and have them start creating the content. Because a lot of the times, if I go and I look at your stuff, you actually got me to go and click on your message and read the message, and I'm clicking and going and watching your profile, and then you have really poor quality photos, or it's just not shot right, then you lost all that effort. So you have one chance at a first impression. So if you finally get this person's attention, make sure there's something that they're gonna like, and then when they pick it, you send it to them, amazing customer service, and that's it. I've worked with a bunch of people that maybe they didn't pay me my rate or not even close to it, and I enjoyed working with them. So
Great, thank you. Any other questions? Can we get the mic over here? On that note, the first thing you said is when you're a startup and you don't have a lot to offer, be crystal clear what you have to offer before you go out to market. So whatever it is that you're making, I think the connectivity to in the initial phase, finding the individuals that will become the early adopters, the early ambassadors, are going to be organic. It's only going to be people that love what you're making that will be the biggest promoters for your brand. It's not going to be like someone with like 10 million followers. Like Gloria said, they may just take it because you're pestering them, but they won't engage, and their followers may not engage. And that's where micro-influencers really come in, that are so specific to the product category that you're making, and you build it through authenticity. In the beginning, that word is so much more important than as you grow. Where's the other question coming?
I think we have time for one more, and then you guys will be on the side stage afterwards for some more questions. Yeah? Okay, great.
Let's get that mic here.
Right over here.
Hi. I wanted to ask a quick question from a legal aspect. I have someone a friend of mine, he does marketing. And when I first met him, he wanted to invest into my company as far as you mentioned, bartering services. So he wanted to come in and to assist with helping with the branding. So I pretty much let him run as far as the logo, the look of the company, and he wanted to do that as a sponsorship because he wanted to use my production company for him to be able to get his brand out as well. Long story short, I did not do the trademark of the logo. And just recently, I've been using this logo for a couple of years now without doing the proper way of doing it, the trademark. Long story short, a couple of weeks ago, it was a service that I now pay him to do certain things for me with my business. A couple of weeks ago, maybe about a month ago, I paid for a service and he did not deliver the service. I could not get in contact with him about a service that I needed. So I couldn't reach him. So I paid for the service. I ended up getting the money back from the bank because he didn't give me the service that I paid for. He called me back and got the letter from the bank, and he told me that because you did this to me, I'm sending you a letter of decease to take the logo from you that I did from the organization. So he was threatening me to take the logo and everything that he sponsored into the organization.
All right, we'll try to.
You have an issue.
So let's try to do this. We'll find Danielle after.
Come talk to
I think we have one. We'll take that last question over there. Here, let's pass it back. Where was it? Back there. All right.
So my question goes to Valeria. After how many years of starting your Instagram did you start monetizing, and how many followers did you have at the time?
Oh, that's a great question. Honestly, since I started monetizing. Hello? Okay, I'm back. So I actually started monetizing before I even really had a following, because since I started off in the modeling industry, I was already working with brands as a model, and they would already, in a very short way, that's actually how I learned how to do the whole Twitter thing, Instagram thing. But I would say you could start converting it right away. Either you have 50K, you have 10K, you just have to kind of negotiate. And when a brand reaches out to you and they tell you, hey, we want to collaborate, or don't be afraid to reach out to a brand either. And also, it doesn't have to be like, a certain number. You can negotiate and see where they're at and where you're at. So I would just I would tell you just to start. I think that there's people out there making money with less than 5K followers. It's again the niche, who's buying from you. So I think that you should just start. Why not?
So we're going to be here for a little bit, and there are additional panels going on at this stage, as well as panels going on at the smaller stage up front at Fashion Lab. Thank you everyone for being in attendance. Make sure you guys take a walk